Good afternoon, everyone. I would firstly like to thank all of you for being here so late in the afternoon, still willing to listen. And secondly, for Potato SA, for the opportunity to share with you the lessons we have learned researching pepper ringspot virus over the last 3 years. And before I forget, all my colleagues that are in the audience or not, for assisting me with the research over the last few years. Okay, let's just go back. As the GG said this morning, every cloud has a silver lining. So in my presentation, I will share with you the more darker news, as well as the silver lining of this pathosystem. So the first time that we've observed symptoms of ring spot and spraying in the potato tubers in South Africa was in 2019. And again, it was observed in 2020, when a colleague of mine, Professor Gerard Peterson, identified pepper ringspot virus as the causative agent of this disease. This virus has only previously been reported in Brazil, where it infects a number of different vegetables as well as weeds. And it was now reported for the first time in 2020 in South Africa. It was for this reason that the Department of Agriculture classified it as a quarantine pathogen, meaning it is of economic importance, and it was assumed that it did not have a wide distribution in South Africa at that time. It was again observed in 2022, and then in 2023, 6 different cases was reported, spanning over 3 different provinces. It was for this reason that the Department of Agriculture had to notify the plant protection community of the world of the presence of pepper ringspot virus in potatoes in South Africa. This happened in December of 2023. And at the same time, the ARC started to do a survey on the Johannesburg and Cape Town fresh produce market to determine what is the incidence as well as geographical distribution of pepper ringspot virus in South Africa. Now, in this survey, we have collected over the last 2 years 1,605 samples from the Johannesburg market. And from the very beginning, it was clear that pepper ringspot virus was present in the table potatoes that were sold on the markets at a very high rate and a wide geographical distribution in South Africa. To date, 39% of the samples we've collected on the market tested positive for pepper ringspot virus, but luckily, that silver lining, only 2.9% of the samples that we've collected thus far show any symptoms. If we now look at the number of positive detections over time, over that 2 years, we can see that over the last 5 months, there's been a worrying increase in the number of positive samples that we've been detecting on the market. And those are the cultivars that have tested positive up to now. If we now look at the geographical distribution of the virus presence in South Africa, you can see that it is present in 8 of the 9 provinces, with the highest incidence recorded in the Free State, followed by the Limpopo province. And it was for this reason that in January of 2024, the department again decided to lift the quarantine regulation on table potatoes. From that point forward, table potatoes were no longer seen as a quarantine, was no longer regulated as quarantine when it was found to be positive. It's to this date only regulated on seed potatoes as a quarantine regulated pathogen, due to the fact that seed potatoes can lead to the distribution of the virus between production regions. During this study, we also showed that this virus is transmitted by a nematode called Nanidoris minor, or stubby root nematode. This was done by transmission studies in pots, and we were also able to detect the virus within singly isolated nematodes. If we also look at the results that was generated by my colleague, Dr. Mariette Marais, as well as the nematology unit at the ARC since the 1960s, we can see on this map that Nanidoris minor has been present in South Africa for a very, very long time, and it has a very wide distribution. If we look at the hosts, Come on. If we look at the hosts that during this time the nematode was reported on, we can see that Nanidoris minor has an extremely wide host range. It includes many different fruits and vegetables, nut trees, grasses, grass crops, fynbos, to just name a few. All of these hosts support its reproduction within the soil and therefore will keep the nematodes alive and reproducing in the soil. Over the last 2 years, my team has also carried out 2 pepper ringspot host range studies, and we've just completed the second one. This was done as pot trials where we planted all the different hosts that you see in the table in the different pots with the nematodes that transmitted the virus to them. And you can see that we were very surprised to see that pepper ringspot virus has an extremely wide host range. We were able to detect the virus within the leaves or the roots of all of these different species. The only 3 hosts that are thus far showing any symptoms when infected by pepper ringspot is sunflower, tomatoes, and obviously potatoes. This mirrors the wide host range that we see in the other Tobra virus called tobacco rattle virus. Tobacco rattle virus also has an extremely wide host range. And you can see that for both viral species, this host range includes a number of different vegetables, tomatoes, peppers, spinach, onions, beetroot, etc., as well as grasses like sweeping lovegrass, Rhodes grass, and borseltjie and it also includes grass crops like barley, oats, maize, and sorghum. What this means is, if you plant any of these crops in rotation with potatoes, these crops will become infected by the infected nematodes, and they will keep the virus within that pathogen system for another season. We are currently looking at seed transmissibility in all of these different seed crops, and we plan on doing a seed transmissibility trial at the end of this year. So we'll keep you posted on that method of transmission. This slide is just showing you the typical symptoms that pepper ringspot induces on leaves as well as tubers. But the silver lining here is that symptom expression is very rare. As you can see in this field, we saw clear symptom expression and were able to test the plants positive by the symptom expression that you see in the leaves. But at the end of the season, none of these tubers showed any symptoms, even though they did test positive for pepper ringspot virus. In comparison, in this field, there was absolutely no symptom expression on the leaves. But at the end of the season, we had the most severe expression of pepper ringspot symptoms in the tubers. Luckily for us, or for the industry, symptom expression is very rare. We have also found that sunflowers in South Africa do get infected with pepper ringspot virus, and it is one of the hosts that displays symptoms when it's infected. Fortunately, it also seems that the virus presence in the plant does not affect the growth of the plant or the yielding ability of the sunflowers. Tomatoes also gets infected with pepper ringspot virus and do show symptoms on its leaves. We are currently investigating its impact on the growth or yielding ability of the tomatoes. During our study, we also noticed the presence of this weed species growing in between the potato and the sunflower production regions. And we noticed that you could clearly see viral symptoms on the weed leaves. Bringing them back to the lab, we were able to test them positive for the virus, and we are currently doing a seed transmission trial to determine if the virus is seed transmissible within this weed, which will be a method of long-distance transmission for the virus. So lastly, I would like to end up with my take-home message, a mix between the dark and the silver lining. Pepper ringspot virus now occurs widespread in South Africa on potatoes and in the Free State and the Northwest Province on sunflowers. The data that I've seen so far and what I've heard from everyone that had infection is that it has a minimal impact on potato as well as sunflower growth and yield. And that is my silver lining for this pathosystem. When your symptoms are present in the tubers, you will have an economic impact due to the downgrading of the table potatoes. It is only due to the fact that it's still regulated on seed potatoes that it has the potential to cause significant impact and economic damage to seed potato producers. The large viral host range, the possibility of being seed transmitted in a number of these crops, as well as the absence of widespread seed testing on seed potatoes, will inevitably lead to the increased spread in production regions in South Africa and our neighboring countries. This, linked with the widespread occurrence as well as the viral persistence of this virus within the nematode vector, will unfortunately make eradication of this pathosystem in South Africa virtually impossible. And that is my mix of good and bad news for the day. Thank you very much.